Welcome to Code&Gamology. Today we're finally doing a coding video. I was trying to make coding videos, but my puppy will ruin my videos every single time. So today I'm taking a chance while she's sleeping. Oh, and also I'll show you a picture of her at the end of this lesson. So stay tuned. Let me demonstrate this game. It's a very popular one. Today's game is Flappy Chick. So the goal is to get past as many tubes as possible. You'll get a pawn if you pass them. But you see, I'm always losing at the last minute. Once you pass a tube, you gain a point, and then once you crash into a tube, you lose a point. You see that? Okay. Now let's do our slides. Today we're making Flappy Chick. Okay. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. I will try my best to upload new Scratch tutorials weekly because of this new puppy toddler in the house. I'm chasing her tail, and then I'm training her, and then she's training me not to do this many videos, but she has some weak points like sleeping where I can do that. Okay, the most important concepts for our game, Flappy Chick, are the change Y. The change Y just makes it go up by 10, and then X is right. The next costume, basically next appearance, if this is true, and then if else is the same as if, except there's an else. So if this is true, and then if this is not true, it goes to the else. Or it's checking if two statements are, this statement is true, or that statement is true. And this statement has to be true, and that statement has to be true. It's checking that that statement is not true. Not. Score variables are the set score and change score. Now, let's go make our game. Now, let's make the game Flappy Chick. I will walk you through step by step. So the first thing, we want to make a pretty simple backdrop because this is already a pretty complicated game. So just a blue sky and green grass, but you can add many other things. You can maybe add a few flowers if you wanted. Now, you're probably wondering, hey, I'm not having this chicken sprite, and I'm not having these rock sprites. Well, of course they're not in the backdrop. You might have thought that, but look. I have two sprites called Sprite 1 and Sprite 2. You might want to avoid the way I named them. You probably want to name them this is rock, and then this can be rock 2. Now, you can be very creative with these. You can make them tubes, rocks, or something like me, or you can even make them like fireballs and stuff. But you can the main structure of the game is kind of just this. You have to put two things to dodge. You can put things to dodge, and then if you pass those dodging things. So how am I actually passing this? So look, the goal on how to draw one of these is putting two rectangles together. And then in the middle of whatever you draw, if you are drawing one of these weird rocks, you're gonna have to click this button over here, and for outline, click this button. And then you're gonna make sure that you have this big rectangle up here. If you're making a kind of meteor thingy, you're gonna want this. Okay, so they're invisible, yeah. They are invisible, but they are going to be very important when we make this game. Now just simply duplicate this sprite so it is the same thing. Now let's get to the hatchling sprite. How did I make this hatchling? Well, you actually kind of just go and then type hatchling. Then you're going to find it's in the animals. That's the chicken. So you see, now that we got this sweet little hatchling, go ahead and delete this sprite and this sprite. Now you're gonna want to delete the eggs of this hatchling. So now we got a pretty easy, simple hatchling. We duplicate it. Now watch very carefully now. I am going to simply click this button, click this, drag it. You might want to rewind to see this part again if this is a little hard. But now that you got this, if you put them together, it will look like this. This is also very important for appearance later on. Now let's get to the code. So actually you might be confused, but the first thing we want to do is actually give it the appearance. You're going to want to make it foreverly. So it's foreverly repeating this once the game is playing, and it will keep on repeating this until the game ended. Or click this. And then every time you do next costume, or I guess you can call it next appearance, like this, it flaps its wings, you're gonna wait 0.1 seconds before you flap again. Now it's gonna foreverly repeat that. And then now, foreverly, the next thing we're gonna wanna add is gravity. You can't have a game without gravity, can you? So, it's when the flag is start. Foreverly, it's gonna change the Y by 5, but the second thing is reducing the gravity. When you click, when the mouse is down, or basically you're clicking, then you're gonna want to go to this place, or the middle of the screen, so you already started in the middle of gravity, and then foreverly, if the mouse is down, then it's gonna repeat 10 times. So it's basically going to go up by 10, which means you can just say, if you didn't want it to be like this, you can just make it change Y by 100. Is 10 times 10? Well, I'm giving it a trick problem. What's 10 times 10? If you said 100, you are correct, because we're actually making it ascend 100 Y. So it's basically going up 100. And then once it goes up 100, it will still be minusing 5. So basically it only goes up 10 degrees and goes down 5 degrees. So it only goes up 5 degrees at a time. So now the next thing is actually adding code to the other three. So we're gonna actually stop right here, move on to the rocks, and then you're actually gonna wanna add this script first. So when start, foreverly it's gonna go to a random position from this to this. Now it's a time to make sure. So you're gonna have to make it these very big, like really big, because if they're not big enough, it won't work. So when it's gonna go to 236, and then the Y is a pick random number. So it's basically it's going, you can't see it really well, but it's going randomly. And then it's gonna go to another position, so it's just rewinding. So it chooses 2 times before it glide to, so basically what happens is that it does this, so it goes to a random position and glides down. You might want to copy this code. Okay, now here's a quick tip. You can actually drag this code and give it to rock, or give it to stage, or you can even give it to your backpack. Now, what happens if you put stuff in your backpack? You can actually take them out later into like other games you make. So it is a very easy tip. Now, The next thing we're gonna want is to go check back to hatchling. And then we're going to go back to this. Now that we have a moving rock, 2 moving rocks exactly, you can't die. Or, you can't win anyways. You probably want to winning better than dying anyways. So when it starts, it's going to point in direction 90, and then now is the time to start a variable called score. Or you can call it anything, but just don't make it something that doesn't make sense, like jabba or something. Make sure it makes sense, because then when the player is playing this game, you have to make sure they understand. Or if it's just a random variable called chicken, I love chicken, then that's not gonna work, because they're like, what is this I love chicken variable? You're gonna have to make it something that makes sense, like score or something, or like the times that you flew through the rocks without hitting them. So now that we have changed set score, we're gonna want to make sure it's foreverly. Now's a good time to talk about the difference between change and set. Well, people, you might already know this, but what's the difference between set and change? Well, change doesn't care what the number is right now. It just adds what integer you put into it. But set takes out the original number and then just deletes it and then adds a new number. Okay, now it's a good time to talk about and, or, and not. These are very, very, very simple once you get them. So, what's or? Or is taking this thing, then this thing, so touching rock or rock 2. So both these conditions, this one condition or the other has to be true. Now what's or? What's not? What's not? It's a very, easy thing. So you're basically actually reversing stuff. So if it's touching rock, not touching rock, just actually changes it and turns it into if I am not touching rock. So it's just saying I am not touching rock. And then that can be true. And then and is very simple. So this condition and that condition has to be true for this to activate. Now let's go to an actual dying statement. Well, if you don't want to die and make yourself invincible, you might want to skip this part, but that's a cheat because then you'll be invincible. So now making the die. So you still have the set score to 0. And then if it is always touching the color gray, if 0 it is 0 is smaller than score, then broadcast dead and then change score by -1. Else you're gonna just broadcast dead. Now what happens when you receive dead? So when it receives dead, it's gonna stop other script and sprite, which basically stops this big gigantic lazy code, and then foreverly it's gonna do the same thing, except it's gonna change the score by 1, which it is there for a reason. Because if it can make it to the edge of the screen, clones are harder to pass until they meet the edge of the screen, they will give you 1 point. Now you just duplicate this but wait. This has a hide wait 2 seconds show in front of all its code. Why? Because then if they are both appear and disappear at the same time, then they will be overlapping each other. Then you can't see the difference. So that's why it's good to remember when you're making 2 exactly same sprites, you have to make one of them wait. That's if the game works. Click, click, bing, fly, 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 fly. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7, 8. Wow, my new high score. 9, 10. Getting a high score. So if you just make it easier, you can get a bunch of high scores. Bye! Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I will show you the Fifi picture, my puppy's picture, in just a moment.